Hey guys, welcome to episode 13. Now, some people say that it's a little bit unlucky to have your 13th podcast, but we're about to prove, damn it! Hey guys, welcome to episode 13 where nothing bad ever really happens. And we're about to prove that, aren't we, with a great episode ahead.
Exactly.
Quite right. It's just Euan and I today, and today we're going to talk about AR and VR and the differences between them and a little bit of our experience with those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a hot topic that's come up quite a few times recently with some of our clients and just the people around us and some of the content we've been making. Yeah. So we thought we might make a podcast just about those specific technologies and what they're all about for those people that don't know enough about them. Yeah. Cool. So I guess VR, I'm going to kind of explain what it stands for and...
So VR is virtual reality.
Go on.
So, it's most people have seen what, Oculus Rift is and all those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. Basically a screen in front of your eyes where you're blocking off everything, and then all you're seeing is virtual reality, which is projected to you via a screen and audio. Just try and make you feel like you're somewhere else, I suppose.
So those are those beautiful headsets that you see people wearing, and they're like, "Oh, I'm in this immersive environment. Whoa, this is crazy."
Yeah.
That's what all the adverts say.
Exactly.
But yeah, and then like you say, you've got the main front runners, which are the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive.
Is there a PlayStation VR?
There is. Yeah, I think it's called PlayStation VR. But as far as the front leaders, those are the two main ones.
Vive and Oculus.
And they have like a few differences in there. Like the HTC Vive has tracking cameras placed around it, so it looks like some sort of amorphous fungus on the front of your face. Not exactly the most attractive thing in the world. But that's okay, because all you can see is some sort of virtual world with it. Yeah,
but it uses I don't know if you go into detail, but yeah, it uses tracking. Or at least it's the latest. I don't think the one before it had that, but the latest Vive uses the tracking cameras to figure out where it is inside space to then track your position, location in space. But other older systems they call them like wands, don't they?
Well, they're basically little tracking stations or little cameras that tracked you within a square within your room. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, so to compare virtual VR to AR, which is augmented reality, or some people are calling it now MR, which is mixed reality. So I think it's basically the same thing. It's just a different name for it, different techie name, and that is where you have, again, the digital content is being augmented onto the top of in-world real things.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's as if you're wearing a pair of sunglasses, so you can still see everything in front of you, but there's like a digital overlay on top of it.
I mean, another, more Snapchat is more, that's AR because it's augmenting your face. So that's a more like a common day example of it, I suppose, which most people will have interacted with.
So you have these two fields that are kind of competing with each other. Oculus Rift, that's backed by Facebook. And so there's millions of dollars being put into virtual reality, being the front runner for this sort of headset virtual future,
Yeah.
And then you've got this other kind of race which is starting, which is AR, and the idea that you are actually just overlaying digital content on top of what you can already see.
Yeah, so another few big players in that are Magic Leap, which is Google backed, which has recently come out. It's like a AR set of goggles with a little sort of Discman, which is the computer. But Microsoft have a HoloLens, which the original HoloLens came out, years ago, almost a decade ago, I think.
Yeah.
So actually this technology has been around for a while. It's just, it's such a technological problem. Like it's such a hard problem to solve that it's taking a long, long time before these technologies are close to being great, but they're just not quite there yet, because you have to cram a computer, screens, cameras, everything into something which fits on your face, is comfortable, and doesn't make you look like a dick.
Which they haven't achieved yet.
No. But apparently, Apple is, there was a news leak the other day that Apple's working on AR, and they've got 1,000 engineers working on it or something like this. AR glasses. And, all the big tech people are trying to develop this stuff, because it is kind of if you can make a pair of glasses that look like glasses, yet you can have digital overlays over your real world, like, the first person to figure that out successfully is going to have, everyone's going to want those, I think, or a lot of people are going to want those.
And I mean, it was about 15 years ago, or no, probably not 15, probably about 10 years ago that sort of first Google Glass video came out.
Yeah.
And it's this idea that, like you could just put on your glasses, and in the corner you have your weather update and your calendar that you can kind of get rid of at will, and then you might look at your toaster and see how many seconds it's got left, with a little pop-up that shows all the dialogue information about it. So, I mean, the idea's been around for ages. It's exactly as you say, though. It's just such a huge technical issue. I mean, the idea that you're having a screen so close to your face and so close to your eyes, on top of all these other issues like sound, and, I mean, people getting nauseous is still a big issue. And that, as
I think that's a good definite difference between VR and AR. So VR, you get a lot of motion sickness because you're not actually taking in any of your real world, surroundings. It's all virtual. So as soon as your motion inside of the game, inside of your virtual reality, doesn't match up with the way you're moving in actual physical space, I think it's something to do with your inner ear, and basically you have biological motion trackers, and as soon as your vision is not lining up with that gives you motion sickness. So that's a really big limiting factor for virtual reality, is that the games or the experiences you can create inside of that world you can't just be like a Skyrim or just a big open world game where you're running around, because as soon as you're sitting down and feeling like you're running around, it makes you really ill.
Or like, the sort of thing, like you might, jump off a building or something like that. Like if you had the vision of you falling, but you didn't have that sensation, that's when you get
really sick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's that, even with AR, the vision of what it would be, like, it's one of those things where it sounds really cool and it's painted really because of science fiction and stuff. You're like, oh, VR is going to be like the Matrix. Like, how cool would that be? Whatever. It's not, obviously not in a dystopian future way, but if you could live a different life and just opt in and out of it, that would be great. But, VR is not there yet. And the same with AR is like, oh, it's great if you can get like pop-ups of everything, but actually, would it be great or would it be really annoying,
Yep.
And like, would there be, like, because everyone already feels like technology is invasive in their life. Like, imagine that times, 1,000 or whatever, where everything you're looking at is popping up like, this is a blah blah tree, and this is a, whatever. Well, it's just like, I don't give a shit.
Well, that was the first like spoof video that came out after that Google Glass thing about 10 years ago was, like the worst version of that being all these advertisements popping up. Like, you can imagine like Google ads just popping up like, do you want a new toaster? Do you want a blah blah? You could upgrade blah blah blah. And it's like the idea that you actually can't escape technology.
Exactly.
But I mean, people are going to get there, right? People are going to actually want to. I mean, we are already more integrated than we ever were with technology. I mean, what were you saying about the e-cigarette guy and the batteries and stuff the other day?
Yeah, I was in London, and I'm sure here as well, you see people who are like, they've got they're sucking on a vape, and then they've got like a portable battery in their pocket, and then they're plugged into their phone, because like and they're just walking around with their phone, like, it's just like, they've got 3 batteries on them, they're sucking on a battery, and it's just like, like, you are a cyborg at that point, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, it's not that much of a stretch to imagine that people, are definitely going to have glasses that they're doing things on, and, all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, we're going down that path. But I wonder, there is definitely a counterculture where people are resisting it, but, maybe it's just an inevitable trend, and sure, there's going to be people who resist, but generally people move towards wanting to be more integrated with technology.
Yeah.
Actually, I listened to another interesting thing on a podcast, and he was saying that like, well, this was more information, but like information is like the same way as, how to describe it? It was timed like information is kind of like calories. So like for all of human existence, basically, everyone was just trying to get as many calories as they could to survive, right? So that's why like people now struggle with obesity, because like humans are every living organism is biologically hardwired to consume as much as possible, basically, to survive. Because there's never been this glut of calories like there is now. But he was saying that he thinks that, I think it was like Penn from Penn and Teller.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And because he struggled with obesity, but also like he's, I don't know, interesting guy. And he was saying that he feels the same way about information now. So like now that there's this like obscene abundance of information, like it's human nature just to consume information, but actually maybe that's not a great thing. Maybe you should be more conscious of like, and making sure you're consuming less quality information rather than just consuming mass information. And I thought like that was a interesting picture to paint, because you know like, yeah, you know there's more information now, like whatever he was saying, like a New York Times article or paper, even a physical newspaper, had more information in it than, you know, anyone in the Middle Ages would have had access to their whole life or something like that. And now you go to us with Google, like our parents 40 years ago, you just couldn't imagine learning the things that we can learn now. Yeah. And like, is that healthy? And is like, are humans kind of ready for that? Or does there need to be more like conscious consumption of information, you know?
Right, yeah.
But yeah, tying that to AR is like, you know, just hardwiring it more into your...
It's all that, it's that Terminator Vision, isn't it? You know, when you see like Terminator 2, you know, when you can look at someone and it says, yeah, not a threat or whatever it is, you know, the idea that you can go around and interact with your world and it's giving you data or like, you know, information based on what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Like, I think it is something to be wary of, but I think at the same time, people are just going to jump on it as soon as it's available, and you know, I think we'll just get used to it really quickly.
I think as well, you know, in terms of AR already, so Microsoft HoloLens, the original one came out 10 years ago. I had to go with it once, and it was super, you know, rudimentary, basically, really pixelated, really, again, because like the screens are right, you know, an inch away from your eye. Like if you hold up a cell phone an inch away from your eye, you can see all the pixels. That's a pretty good example. I mean, don't do that. It's not good for your eyes.
Yeah, please don't.
But, you know, it's hard to crack that. And then, but now the HoloLens 2 is like, you know, better. They've improved all the technology, but they're gearing it way more to industry. So it's like priced at a very high price point. It's like, I don't know how many, a few $1,000s, but it's for, you know, engineers and architects and whatever, industry professionals. But I think that's really, you know, interesting. It's a good, like, it's clever for a start because, you know, the technology is expensive, so only really business can afford it. Like, you're not going to get it to every consumer. But also, already AR is proving very valuable for people like engineers to see how, you know, an engine goes together. Like, it's great. Like, that's where AR is really, really valuable. And I think, like, it'll be interesting over the next decades or years to see where these hypothetical ideas of like, that would be cool, if it actually is cool or it's actually just annoying and gimmicky.
Totally could.
But there's going to be some things where it's like really, really valuable. You know, it may be like a doctor operating on someone. Like, imagine if you had basically, you know, X-ray vision.
Yeah,
because of AR, which is totally, you know, doable.
And this is what we're starting to see now, and what we've experimented with a little bit, is this object-based tracking. So your example of, say, engineers or technicians, you know, they've got a HoloLens on, they come along to a broken printer or something like that. They can then look at that printer and all the elements like the cartridges would float out of it in AR and be able to it would show which one is broken. Or if it was a printer he hadn't seen before, but they had on file, he could bring up the training schematic or whatever it might be, and then it would take them through step by step, like lift off this hammer, undo this bolt, and it's, you know, and it's just applying that in front of your eyes instead of looking at a little manual, which can be really hard to kind of relate to.
Yeah, or even a video is I mean, a video is better for sure, but you're right. Like it's, a 3D video, really, a 3D real time video. It's like, yeah, that's really where we're makers and stuff, so I think we see the value in that world. Like it's very tangible how that would be useful.
And it's but yeah, the limitation we found with that is that you're not going to be able to do the same thing with a one-off art sculpture that's been crafted out of hairpins or something like that, because that model always needs a digital reference, or it needs a digital CAD model to basically use as reference for that object. So it's always useful for mass manufactured.
I mean, you could scan it.
Yep, I mean, yeah, you totally can, so that's when it comes back into it. But yeah, scanning has its own problems, but for a lot of these mass manufactured objects like cars and machinery and things like that, that's when you're going to see a lot of it, because a lot of it is built in a computer and built in 3D CAD before it's made. They've got all that information there, and then they can create all the animations over it. Really easily.
Any mass manufactured object now has a highly detailed CAD, exact CAD version of it, doesn't it? Yeah.
And but you're talking to, or not talking to, you're looking at the guy who created, was it Doom? No, it wasn't Doom. It was Quake.
Quake, yeah.
And so he was saying that, well, he had an argument for saying VR is going to be far more a bigger part of our future than AR.
Yeah, he did, and I'm trying to think like what his argument was now, but I mean, I guess that AR, is limited by the fact that you're projecting over reality, so you can't, whatever, from a game developer's perspective or something, you can't imagine you're on Mars or something, or you can't, because you're limited by the world around you.
Sure. In
some regards. So I think AR solves some problems, like you don't get motion sick, and you can do some really cool games, but if it's in your lounge, then you are confined by the fact you're in your lounge. But with VR, as soon as they, you can make whatever world or reality you want in there, and it's, you're not limited by anything really apart from motion sickness at this stage. But he always referenced back to Beat Saber, which is a game for VR, and it's basically like drumming, like Guitar Hero but with drums, except you have lightsabers for sticks.
Yes.
And then you kind of slash at
if anyone's ever played Guitar Hero or what's the other ones?
Rock Band, I guess.
Band and things like that. Yeah, so you are trying to hit the notes at the right time that the certain notes are coming at the screen.
Yeah.
But this time you have drumstick, lightsabers, and you are slicing the numbers at the right time as it comes through. And it's like, he was using that as the perfect example of that is so good in VR and can't be replicated anywhere else.
Exactly.
For that,
And it's using all the advantages of VR, and not just finding shitty workarounds for the limitations. Because people are basically getting traditional game designers or traditional game, whatever, that's how you make a game, and then you're trying to plug it into VR and it just doesn't work.
So they've done with this with a few games now. Elder Scrolls Skyrim being one of them. A lot of games that they have said, oh, this would be amazing, let's put into VR. But with the motion sickness, you can't jump around too much. So what they end up doing is having this teleport movement. So because you don't want to, like Euan was saying, move around in the game too much, they instead just get you to point where you want to go and it teleports you there.
Yeah.
However, not great for an immersive experience, because I don't know about you, but I don't teleport around much.
I haven't done much in the past.
No, I'm just not a fan.
Not a fan of teleportation.
Yeah. That's cheating.
Yeah.
It's still not. I get what that guy's saying. You can be transported to any other world, but it's a long way off feeling immersive.
Yeah, I don't know quite what, if that. Again, there's these things called Omnidirectional Treadmill. So basically, it's there's a bunch of different ways of doing it, but ball bearings on the ground. So when you're walking, you're actually not moving anywhere. You're just you're staying fixed in one place, but you're running around. And that's one solution, but again, super hard to make, super expensive to make.
Yeah.
Even the people who are making them for $20,000 a piece, like they are kind of shit, because to make a treadmill that's as reactive as you move, it's really hard.
Yeah.
And, so like that problem is going to be a problem until you can, just plug your brain into something and just simulate that you're walking and you're actually not, which is like the Matrix, and I think that's probably a bit off.
Yeah, it's a little bit off there.
I mean, Elon Musk seems to think probably it's not, but I don't think people are going to be that keen to sort of jack in to play Warcraft. No. Maybe they are. I don't know. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I think in our lifetime, maybe I always think about this, like in the retirement home when we're like old. It's going to be so good.
Oh man, I'm too old to move. Oh well.
Yeah, I'll just game, but not even I'll just plug in. I'm just like a space marine, like running around, like mowing down armies of aliens or something.
Yeah, or I'm just a younger version of myself, doing whatever.
I mean, it's like Ready Player One, that's another.
Yeah, Ready Player One. I couldn't think of the name,
but God, it's a shit movie.
Terrible.
But whatever. The idea is kind of cool.
And they had a few versions of the Omnidirectional Treadmill in there as well. But it was eventually the super rich one was just a one where they got jacked in, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But some of the cool things with VR is that you have a lot of these sort of satellite companies popping up that are creating equipment for it. So there's those haptic gloves.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I mean, that's really exciting because one of the things about using VR is that you've got these controllers and they're great, but they're basically emulating your hand movement. So your has a trigger on the inside of your fingers, so when you grip, it's like grabbing a gun or it's grabbing an orange from the fruit bowl, whatever it might be. So it's kind of just translating your hand movements into the simulation. But of course you can't, from the grip, you can't really feel like you're gripping that orange.
Yeah.
So when you go and grab it, you have no sensation that you're grabbing something round. So what they're trying to develop now are gloves that can basically simulate that. So when you grab out and reach that orange, you can feel the round shape from either little pads on the inside of your hand that will give you little force feedback.
Yeah.
Or vibrations. So similar to those, like Samsung or like a lot of those phones have little vibration tactile feedback when you're clicking the buttons. That's another version of, or what they're kind of integrating to these haptic gloves to make you feel like you're
interacting with something
that's not there. Yeah. Because that's where it's really let down sometimes, is that you can see these things or you can hear them, but you can't actually feel the world around you.
Yeah. It's actually a funny one as well. Like, again, going back to that podcast with the guy from Quake, and he was saying that actually some of the really successful uses of VR, they had them in in LA, but so what they'll do is they'll get like a warehouse, and then they'll just make the warehouse like all kind of like laser tags, so just plain walls everywhere.
Yeah.
But then everyone's wearing VR goggles, and then have real guns and all this stuff, which are all linked into VR.
Not real guns. I mean.
Yeah, how should I say? Physical mock guns.
Yeah.
Like laser tag guns.
Yeah.
And you run around and they change all the there's different scenes they load into you're having in a jungle or you're in a castle and you're running around, and that's really cool because it's using the VR, but then also it's almost AR.
Yeah.
But it's just using VR so that then the physical things are represented.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I was in America, we had to do a project to redesign, revive old dying brands.
Yeah.
And me and Jack got Atari, and my revive idea was exactly that. Have VR goggles and a VR gun, and then just change it all in VR. And the guy at the teacher was like, "Yeah, I just don't see it being a viable thing in the future." God. And I was just like,
if only you followed your heart, Euan.
I could be making millions. No, probably not millions. That's the thing. It's there. It's hard to get wide adoption.
Wait, and you see these things too, and they're of course they have to carry around the big batteries and stuff with them, so they've got big battery packs. And the thing is with setting a business around that is that the technology moves so quick that as soon as the Oculus 3 comes out, they're going to have to get rid of all the thousands of dollars they spent on that, and then re-kit everything and upgrade their models, and it's. I can imagine it'll be super hard to keep up with.
Yeah, I think the guy was saying that actually that's exactly it. Is that they develop all their own location tracking software because Oculus aren't. I think they use Oculuses or whatever. The company which makes the VR is not interested in like that specific treatment of that. So they have to generate all this like unique code, which is obviously super hard, super time consuming.
So much development on there.
So much development, and then you're only getting those 20 people pay, I don't know how much they pay each time they go around, but you're not making like billions like you are from selling Oculus. So, you're right. It's hard. And then also you're competing against a massive tech giant.
Yep.
So, it's hard. But also another one he said that like, I think it was like a VR art installation. So it was like, and it was he had a huge warehouse. So like with the new Oculus called Oculus Quest.
Yep.
It's completely separate from a computer, which is a big advantage. So previously, like, your VR is comparable to your monitor, so it's just displaying the information that's generated by the computer.
Mm-hmm.
But that means you're tethered to a computer, and so it's hard to move around. But the new Oculus Quest is like created as a standalone unit, so you just got a headset and 2 controllers, I think, and then you like draw a bounding box, and it tracks you inside of that, and it's all standalone.
All the computing is done in the headset.
In the headset. So he said, like, in a warehouse, you can draw, like, a really big bounding box. So you have, like, a, say, 20 meter by 20 meter, like, room to explore. And then you can, obviously, generate a VR... I think he was saying it was, like, a multi-room thing. And, like, you had to crawl through things and stuff like that. And it was, like, he said it was really, really cool because you weren't, like, limited by the space. Yeah. And, like, he was saying that could be great for, for example, like... art galleries and museums and stuff like this, where it's all, there's no real tactile interaction with that stuff. You could have VR experiences for basically all of this stuff, and it would be really great because people could experience it at home, and like way more people could get, go and tour to Papa, and they live in, I don't know, Samoa or Africa or wherever, So that I think those sort of things is a great use of that technology.
But interestingly, they're both actually heading towards the same direction, aren't they? Which is this mix between the physical world and digital, and that you are exploring physical spaces with a digital overlay. It's just that with VR, it's complete.
Yeah.
But it's still using real world. I mean, like, because that is the coolest bit of VR, I think, is that you can feel the walls and, like, but then it's just sort of it's projected
digital
like
skin.
Digital skin, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's an exciting space to be, and I wonder if like the technologies will merge at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, I suppose, like AR or augmented reality, you can just phase out more and more of reality before until then is an augmented reality headset, which is not showing any of the real world, a VR headset. I mean, basically.
But can you remember the certain challenges like Magic Leap were facing, for example? Like those, wasn't it the lenses in front of...
Yeah, well, they had a big problem with... The main thing was that the lenses were very... So obviously, like, your field of vision for a human is like, I don't know, just below 180 degrees or something like this. But, making, again, screens that are high res and also curved that wrap around your whole vision, really high resolution is really hard. So what... Magic Leap did is basically they have relatively small square screens in front of your eyes. So like when you're looking through those, it's got the augmented reality on top of it, but everything outside of that is just glass, glasses. So it's not that immersive. It's sort of like holding 2 tablets in front of your face and looking through those.
And the worst thing about it, I think it's the same as HoloLens in that you have a augmented section of your vision, but then you can basically see around the outside, and that it somewhat disrupts the idea. I mean, Magic Leap, when they first released were promoting their headset, had these incredible videos like this whale splashing in the middle of a school gymnasium, and it's like, this is going to be incredible. But the reality of that is nowhere near that, basically.
Yeah. I mean... And don't get me wrong, like it is amazing, and it's just, I think that's the thing as well, is like from someone who doesn't understand the technology in the slightest, like those engineers must be like, do you fucking realise how hard that was to do? Like, it must be so hard to do, and it's just going to improve over time. And even just that really limited thing they've, not limited, amazing thing they've done is amazing. But what we want it to be, like something out of a science fiction film, is probably a wee way off.
It's a wee way off, yeah.
Because
do we quickly want to mention our experience with working with VR and AR? Because I guess we're starting the business. We have first off had this idea that it would be great to take a VR headset to people's homes and show them what their house is going to be like when it's finished. They can do a virtual tour of their own home. We can do the model for them. Like, that'll be great. But then, as it currently stands, the practicalities of that is quite difficult.
Yeah.
And that you are dealing with people getting motion sickness. People are just generally wary of the technology and like just not that comfortable doing it. And especially sort of older people.
Yeah.
No old lady wants to put a headset on, completely and then stand up in the middle of the room where everyone can see them, but they can't see anyone else. And you just feel like a bit of a dick.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's not a comfortable experience to have that VR. And at the end of the day, we're just like, it's not really worth it for our business, know. But then looking at AR, which we've been looking into a little recently.
Yeah.
And since it is just projecting over what you can already see, it's getting over some of those barriers.
Yeah, well, especially if the thing you're projecting over has value in its physical form or in its original form. The augmented reality can be on top of that to elevate it and enhance it. But if the thing which is already there, like a friend was saying about, say you had a bit of furniture or a furniture mock-up and you were into a presentation and you were like, you have one mock-up, but then you want to show all the different finishes that piece of furniture could be created in. AR is really great for that because, you don't have to make 10 different mock-ups. You just, here's the stool or whatever, and here's it in all the different color variations. And like that's like a really valuable, and again, with, a room, here's the miniature of the room, here's the whatever, like here's all the different colors it could be in, here's the different ways you can rearrange it. And I think that's where, it's important to understand, I think especially as technologists and tech people and design people like us, we get carried away with like, this is cool, but it needs to be cool and practical.
Yeah. And I guess, like you say, if the original object or whatever you're seeing is cool in itself or looks great, and then AR's just enhancing that, then I think people will adopt it. That's probably where we're first going to see people adopting that kind of technology.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I guess I'm sure this is what people, I don't know from experience, but I'm sure this is what a lot of tech people, battle with is like, is it just timing things right is where people are comfortable enough with the technology to have a widespread adoption, or if things come too soon, people are just like, no, this is too weird.
Yeah, too much.
Like electric cars and all this sort of stuff as well. Like it's taken a very long time for people to be now comfortable with the thought of having one. And like in the early days, you got the occasional person who was like, I love an electric car, but you need to get a whole bunch of those people to then buy them so you can then develop the technology to a point where it is,
Well, you'll always have those front runners, the people on the bleeding edge who want to trial this new stuff, but the general population just aren't there.
Yeah, it's like, this works fine.
Yep.
I don't know.
No, that's weird and strange.
And that's often the majority.
Yep.
So, it's pretty interesting.
But I think it's a pretty good place to leave it. End of episode 13. We will hopefully have a guest on next week. We'll talk to them and see if we can get them in. And apart from then, enjoy the rest of your week and see you next time.
Bye.